I'm Austin.
I'm Andron.
I'm Chris.
And welcome back to Bombchu. What's going on? New music? Other people in the intro? Hey, my show, I do what I want. You want to fight about it? Jokes aside, I'm just trying some new things out. Andron and Chris are longtime members of the Bombchu team and are here to bestow their wisdom, so you're in for a treat. Let's dive into this month's bundle and see if October arrives with tricks or treats. This month's Humble Original is Roman Sands. Right off the bat, what will be obvious to you is that this game has a case of the stutters for me, so I apologize for the footage, but I can't imagine what's making this game chug so hard when it looks like this. That aside, you wake up on a beach resort not sure how you got there. The few people you're able to find all berate you over the broken keycard reader and treat you like an employee. Each day, the people seem to forget about asking you to do things for them the previous day. Then the sun freaks out, and everyone gets teleported inside. You keep passing the days, slowly trying to fix problems and making people happy, or rather trying to find an escape, with each glimmer of hope and new item found not getting you very far and giving you a new problem. The conversations you hold are pretty interesting, and leave a lot of mysterious unanswered questions while also providing some laughs. The music and sound design have a cool vibe, and I kind of enjoy the weird character drawings. I did suffer multiple times from where the heck do I go now syndrome that ended up having solutions that were sitting right in front of my face the whole time. Not sure if that was just me being unobservant or what, but there were a couple of nice design choices that made my time wandering around aimlessly a little less tedious. First, look at this tennis court. This is a big area that, as far as I can tell, has nothing for you. The developers put these little blockers between the nets so you can't go all the way out to find nothing. Very nice. And once you reach a certain point inside, walking down a long stretch to a point of interest will let you walk for a moment and then teleport you there to keep things moving. The game is not without bugs, as when I tried to use this screwdriver on the keycard lock, the menu became stuck on my screen, and I ran into some weird behavior. It's an interesting game, and I wouldn't mind playing more after a patch to smooth things out a bit. Avernum 3 Ruined World is a remake of Avernum 3, which was itself a remake of Exile 3. This was an RPG that was released a couple of years before Baldur's Gate came in and redefined our expectations for the genre, so it's old and it feels old. Clunky interface, walls of text with no voice acting, tiny details that are hard to make out, and just generally hard to look at and play. If you were into 90s RPGs, then this feels definitively from the era, while having a few refinements to streamline magic and some other mechanics to make it less clunky. But if you're like me and didn't get into those deep RPGs until a little later in life, if ever, then this game is a chore to play. I was mentally drained after a relatively short play session, and I don't plan to play again. The Spiral Scouts is an adventure puzzle game with a cute cartoony cutout aesthetic. Be warned, while this may look great for kids, it is not. It's very, very adult, with some of it being innuendo with some clever ways of breaking your expectations, but most of it being just hardcore cursing and talking about sex acts. The very first item you find is a butt nut, which you can eat to fart, or you can mix it with sugar to make butt juice. And this is the really, really light stuff. If that doesn't bother you, there are some fun puzzles of all sorts of variety that you can solve for items, equipment, or the ultimate progress, badges. Unlocking enough badges lets you travel to other lands, but so far I've just found the one. The puzzles are fun, and the characters are zany, but when it comes to dialogue, I kinda wish the writers had gone with a less is more approach.
Sonic Mania is a side-scrolling platformer published by Sega in 2017. Sonic is a series that has something of a troubling track record, at least when it comes to any of the games released in the last few decades. Sure, we're treated to the occasional surprise like Generations or Colors, but the vast majority of Sonic games are flawed at best and hot garbage at worst. However, with Sonic Mania, Sega finally did what everyone has been begging them to do for a long time, and that's listen to their fans. Sonic Mania is a classic-style Sonic game featuring 2D gameplay that focuses on Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, without throwing endless forgettable quote-unquote friends to try and shake things up. Not only that, Mania was developed by members of the Sonic ROM hack and fangame community. Development was headed by Christian Whitehead, who started by convincing Sega to let him port classic Sonic games to mobile platforms using his custom retro engine. The love and dedication to what made Sonic such a classic shows in Sonic Mania. The game feels exactly like how you remember the good Sonic games playing, with some of the rough edges being rounded out in the process. The sense of speed is incredibly satisfying, and the pixel art combined with the memorable music, both new and old, feels like a trip through time back to the glory days of mascot-based platformers. Sonic Mania features a variety of bonus games, extra features, and a fantastic animated intro sequence created by Tyson Hess. The story is light and unobtrusive, as it should be. The focus instead is on creating a gameplay experience that is a refreshingly classic spin on a formula that seems to still have legs in the modern gaming climate. I may have a bit of a bias, as I was a Sega kid growing up, and I've always had a soft spot for Sonic. However, even for fair-weather fans or gamers too young to have experienced the heyday of Sonic, Sonic Mania has something to offer for everyone, and is an instant classic that I can't wait to put more time into.
This next game I covered at the end of last month's review. If you've already seen my look at BattleTech, you may want to skip ahead. Timestamps for each game are listed down below. BattleTech is a turn-based strategy mech game set in the tabletop universe of the same name. On its surface, it doesn't seem very complicated. Click your mechs and move them to where you want them to go. Attack from strategic locations, such as taking cover in trees and hitting enemies from behind. However, there are a lot of mechanics that go unexplained, with complicated systems causing status effects and bars that I don't know what to make of. Still, I was able to get through initial battles without much trouble, but good god, levels just go on forever, with battles against tons of enemies taking several turns. Then you walk forward a bit and suddenly enemies spawn next to you, so there's often no strategic way to enter a battle. It's a tactical game that often throws tactics out the window. It has a season pass that is more expensive than the game, with DLC that isn't highly rated, and even the positive reviews seem to suggest that the base version of the game is not very good and suggest that you use mods to fix it. If you have nothing better to do and want to slog away for hours against stupid numbers of enemies, or you're really into BattleTech lore, have at it, but this one gets a pass from me. Override is a multiplayer mech brawler. If you can find anyone online, you can fight up to 3 other people, punching, kicking, and blasting your way to victory. You can control each of your limbs with the triggers and shoulder buttons triggering kicks and punches on each side. Holding down an attack allows you to charge, which will let you break your opponent's shield and knock them over. You can jump, glide, do aerial attacks, throw up a shield, and if you have enough energy, you can do special attacks, which are different for each mech. These involve holding X if you're on an Xbox controller, and then hitting one of your punches or kicks. You can pick up weapons that drop during the match for an advantage, and if you find yourself dying, you can do a final ultimate attack for some serious damage if you can manage to land it. There's a 4-player co-op mode where each person controls a different limb, and an arcade mode if you can't find anyone to play with, but the focus definitely seems to be on the versus multiplayer. It's not wildly interesting, but it runs well and it's definitely not a bad game.
Hold up. The next section of this review will feature content from a game that may negatively affect anyone who is photosensitive and has a history of epileptic seizures. If you're affected by this, it's recommended to skip this section or at least look away from the screen and listen instead. PUSS is a game where you play as a cat and try to navigate mazes while avoiding danger. Your goal in each level is to reach the exit without touching too many walls or other obstacles. Getting started is super easy, as all you need is a mouse to click on your little cat to move them around. Movement was quick and responsive, and even though I felt like I was going to get damaged, the game gave a fair amount of leeway at times. The game is split up into multiple worlds with 10 levels each. From what I can tell, 9 of the levels are mazes with increasing difficulty, and the last one is a boss battle. The maze levels are randomized per world and are more about patience and planning than quick reflexes. While some earlier levels can be cleared just by moving your hand a few times, the later ones really rely on being able to create a path for yourself mentally before moving on. The boss fights, on the other hand, are bullet hells where you can't shoot back. Instead, your goal is to survive long enough to collect power, then launch an all-out scratch attack by mashing the left mouse button. Luckily, your little cat starts with 9 lives, and the quicker you complete a level, the higher your score is, which grants you even more lives. I thought this was a nice little incentive to do better. What really stood out to me is just how dang weird the game is. I'm not photosensitive as far as I know, but I still had issues staring at some of the craziness going on. Some quick examples are imagery of cats sticking their heads into one pipe and coming out of a complete different one, and weird gnashing teeth with the sounds of horses whinnying in the background. While not disturbing in and of itself, this imagery combined with the constant flashing lights and off-putting soundtrack really added to the horror vibe the game had going for it. I have to say, the simple game design, disturbing imagery, and the cute kitten that you can swap in the menu somehow all work together to make a fantastic game. It really shouldn't, but it does, and I can't wait to play some more. This is definitely my favorite of the bundle.
Planet Alpha is a side-scrolling puzzle platformer in the style of Inside and Limbo, but with the art style of No Man's Sky. This genre can be a tricky one to get right, as we've seen it go wrong in cases like Black the Fall, but Planet Alpha feels great to play so far. The story is told without a word being spoken, as the forest you're exploring, teeming with life, is invaded. The creatures of the forest and the invaders both seem to want you dead a lot of the time, but you'll kind of find them to be allies when they go at each other instead of you. In terms of gameplay, it's about what you expect. You can run, jump, crouch to hide in the foliage, and you can grab things in the background with diamonds on them to use as platforms. On occasion, you'll find a more interactive room where you can use the left and right triggers to control machinery, but largely the controls seem to stay pretty simple. But my lord, the atmosphere. I don't like No Man's Sky, but I can appreciate the visuals, and this game has some amazing visuals, with the environment constantly changing from one beautiful landscape to the next. I'm really excited to come back to play more of this one. So overall, how was this bundle? There were a lot of odd, underwhelming choices. Nothing downright universally bad, but definitely some mixed bags and meh games. Sonic Mania, PUSS, and Planet Alpha were definite highlights, although Sonic Mania appeared in a bundle a while back, and we're really supposed to be getting new-to-bundle titles with the monthly bundle. How much bang for your buck was there? Getting all these at full price would cost about $174, while getting them at their lowest sale price would be about $70. Overall, I'd say this was an alright bundle. There were some highlights for sure, but the bulk of the games left a bad taste in my mouth or were kind of forgettable. Next month has some killer early unlocks from Activision, including Call of Duty World War II, Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy, and Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Let's take a sneak peek. Call of Duty World War II is the 5th Call of Duty game to take place in World War II, and the first return to the setting since 2008. After a long string of games getting away from the series' initial historical setting, this served as a return to its roots. So how did it go? Well, there are basically 3 games here to look at, so let's judge them individually first. I don't have a ton of experience with Call of Duty campaigns, but going off some ancient memories, this campaign feels like the old World War II campaigns, as it's easy to die, and there's often gunfire coming from enemies you can't see. I played on the normal difficulty and was frequently told, only after dying, that I was hurt and should seek cover. Deaths weren't very punishing or frustrating though, and checkpoints seemed generous. Everything, however, was pretty dull. There were long, unskippable cutscenes, and the gunplay didn't really feel all that satisfying, likely a result of having gotten used to the more futuristic weapons of Black Ops 3. Performance was very smooth and stable though, which is great to see over the hiccupy mess that was Black Ops 4. Although there was this weird graphical glitch where this guy really messed up the knife game, but he seemed okay afterward. If you enjoy Call of Duty campaigns, especially the older ones, this one might hold some appeal for you. After this, I moved over to zombies, and here's where the dumb really started to show up. Not in the zombies mode itself, but in the haphazard way these 3 game pieces have been Frankenstein together. When you download this game, it shows up in your Steam library as 2 different games, Call of Duty World War II and Call of Duty World War II Multiplayer. But on the menu for the single player game, Zombies mode shows up, so I selected it. It closed the game and slowly launched the multiplayer version. Okay, sure, I should have expected that. Frustratingly, the multiplayer application doesn't share any settings with the single player application. so I had to redo all my settings, including getting the game to appear on the correct monitor, as it really wanted to open on my secondary screen. The game opens up, I go to change the settings, and a pop-up appears saying the game has been updated and needs to restart. It's on Steam. Why not just patch the game through Steam? Whatever. The game closes and relaunches again. I can finally change my settings, and I go to select zombies. The game closes again, and relaunches the multiplayer application with some different launch parameters, I guess, and I finally get into the zombies menu. Why on earth is it so complicated to launch zombies? As for the mode itself, it worked a lot better than my experience with zombies in Black Ops 4. I wasn't kicked from matches, and I was able to find people pretty quickly. My only real gripe with playing is that the shovel feels like it has an incredibly short range, and there were a couple of times I saw zombie heads pop before my attack animation had made contact. Onto the proper multiplayer mode, again, I miss the Black Ops 3 guns, but what's here works. Same smooth performance from the campaign, I just don't really like playing with older weapons, and I miss the crazy mobility options. Overall, this isn't a wildly offensive entry, though I do think it will be divisive, as a large part of Call of Duty's modern audience got into the series from titles that didn't take place in World War II. This return may please older fans, but it feels so far on the other end of the spectrum of where the series has gone that it'll be tough to please everyone. Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy is a remaster of the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games from the PS1. You play as Crash, platforming and crate-busting your way through levels. The main goal of each level is simply to make it to the end, though there are some gems to earn by finding them, by breaking every box in a given level, or completing some other challenge. Some of these can be cleverly hidden just off camera, or may require some tight timing and positioning to get safely. You can jump, spin, and dash, with some other level types showing up in the third game, such as this submarine level. Having never played the originals, I went through Crash 1 and got a 102% completion rating on it. It was extremely frustrating in a number of levels, especially because of the jumping physics, which feel inconsistent and downright annoying. It seems Crash's jumping was made to be consistent across all 3 titles, so it wouldn't be jarring to go from one to another. But as a result, Crash 1 was made way more difficult. Playing a couple of levels from Crash 2 and 3 today felt significantly easier, so if you're having a hard time, maybe skip Crash 1 and come back to it later. It turned me off so bad, I didn't even bother touching the other games until I had to take another look for this review. Don't be like me. Don't play Crash 1 first. But if you like action platformers, do check out this trilogy. Spyro Reignited Trilogy is, you guessed it, a remaster of the first 3 Spyro games from the PS1. Spyro has thankfully aged a little better across the board, with levels that encourage exploration and clever use of flying. You collect gems, free dragons, or dragon babies, or whoever needs freeing for whatever game you're on, and unlock new levels to explore. Gems will be important, as you'll use them to purchase access to bridges that lead to other areas. Your main moves are a running dash, a jump from which you can start gliding, and fire breath. The dash is fast and feels great, and gliding makes you feel less restricted, without being too powerful. Some levels will be one-off challenges, like getting to free fly around and trying to break several specific objects before time runs out, or hopping on a skateboard and using a skate park to hunt down lizards. Remember, these came out when Tony Hawk was all the rage. This one feels a lot more fun and a lot less frustrating right out of the gate, and I'm looking forward to diving further into both these series I missed out on as a kid. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. After 3 years, we're closing in on 5,000 subscribers, and I'm hoping to hit that number before the end of this year. So if you aren't subscribed, consider clicking that button. It's totally free, and it helps us a ton. We also have a Discord server where we talk about dumb stuff, do giveaways, and generally have a good time. There's a link to that down below. Finally, a big thank you to Gabriel Skaggs, Michael Slater, Sort My Games, and all our patrons over on Patreon. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.